We gather this evening to celebrate the life and mourn the passing of Robbie Lynn White, a courageous woman who overcame challenging early years to build a life of beauty and meaning. A woman with a great capacity to love, whose life knew tribulation, and yet who came to find a quiet contentment. I invite you into this time and this place, bringing the full range of emotion, that we might honor and memorialize this life fully. May we celebrate in the fullest sense, to feel the pain of loss, as well as the joy of all Robbie brought to her life and to this world. I'm the Reverend Dana Worsnop, minister of this Unitarian Universalist congregation, where Robbie's mother-in-law, Tioga, is a member. Richard and Tioga, and all of Robbie's family and friends, especially all the nieces and nephews, I offer tender condolences on your loss. May we celebrate and mourn together. Robbie's nephew, Douglas White, will light the chalice of this faith. This is a symbol of the holy light within each of us, and a symbol of the light that Robbie brought to this life. I offer you these words by Barbara Holliff. It is sometimes said that we are born as strangers into the world and that we leave it when we die. But in all probability, we do not come into the world at all. Rather, we come out of it in the same way that a leaf comes out of a tree or a baby from its mother's body. We emerge from the deep within its range of possibilities. And when we die, we do not so much stop living as take on a different form. So the leaf does not fall out of the world when it leaves the tree. It has a different way and place to be within it. Those who die before us most surely live on in our memories. And the moment someone dies, we begin this tender work of memory. A human life is sacred. It is sacred in its being born, it is sacred in its living, and it is sacred in its dying. Let us begin our tender work this night. Robbie's sister, Patricia, has a reading.
Death is not a high price to pay for having lived. Mountains never died, nor do the seas or rocks or endless sky. Through countless centuries of time, they stay eternal, deathless, yet they never live. If the choice were there, I would not hesitate to choose mortality. Whatever fate demanded in return for life, I'd give it. For never to have to see fertile plains, nor heard the winds, nor felt the warm sun on sands beside the salty sea, nor touched the hands of those I love. Without these, all the things of timelessness would not be worth one day of living and of loving, come what may.
Robbie Lynn White was born January 21st, 1959 in Houston, Texas, a middle child in a family of 7 kids. It was what her husband Richard calls a hard-scrabble family life. It was a large, though not especially close family, and there was there were challenges in providing for all their needs. It is also a family that has known perhaps more than its share of tragedy. And now Robbie is gone just short of her 54th birthday. Yet Robbie overcame the many obstacles and challenges of her early years to build a life with Richard that had sweetness and security. A life full of children, nieces, nephews, and neighborhood kids, as well as the dogs who became like children for her, who one of whom is with us this evening, Sebastian. She had some bad early relationships with men, and yet she let herself love and be loved by Richard. Her early issues with addiction led to contracting the HIV virus that took her life, yet Robbie had been clean and sober for nearly 30 years. I did not have the privilege of knowing Robbie personally in this life, but I have come to know her through the memories of Richard and her mother-in-law, Tioga. Hers is the story of an East Texas girl transplanted to the liberal Pacific Northwest, which took a little adjusting to, but she did it with her own natural grace. There were all these huge things she surmounted and huge changes she made, Tioga says. She was an inspiration to me. She became a real teacher to me. She was courageous, Richard says. Robbie and Richard met in 1985 at a Hugs Not Drugs dance when he fell to his knees before her in a dramatic gesture that at first took her a little aback. There was an immediate and strong attraction to one another that grew quickly into a deep love that led to a lasting commitment. Richard gave Robbie his complete acceptance of her, a strength of love, and a far wider range of experiences than she would ever have had she stayed in Texas. They traveled to the beach, to Montana, to the Redwoods, to Alaska. Robbie made a trip to Hawaii with a girlfriend. Richard speaks of how Robbie changed his life. She never gave up on him through his own struggles. I was driven to succeed because she saw so much in me that I couldn't see, he says. Robbie was devastated when she got her diagnosis. She grieved that she would not be able to have children of her own, and yet that did not keep her from loving many children in her life. A passel of nephews and nieces, and all the kids in the neighborhood to whom she became known as Aunt Robbie. And then there were all the dogs, mostly border collies, who became her kids. She hadn't had pets growing up and wasn't quite sure about the whole thing at first, but they became her family, and she loved them dearly. Though so much of her life, especially into her mid-20s, was hard and had its sorrows, in the end she was pleased with who she was, Richard says. She thought that experience makes you who you are, and she knew that her challenging childhood and the pain she knew throughout her life helped her become as open as she was. Her own trials made her sensitive, empathetic, forgiving. She grew throughout her life in kindness and compassion. On the day after Thanksgiving every year, she had the family pack lunches made from the leftovers, and they went out and handed them out to homeless people. She was always very chatty and friendly with them, and was even prone to giving away Richard's socks. Robbie was a profoundly spiritual person. She had a fairly traditionally Christian background, yet her faith developed to an understanding that God the Father was always with her, that God was all about us and found within us and within nature. God called Robbie to be kind, loving, and forgiving. She knew how deeply she longed to be accepted for who she was, and so she tried to accept others as they were. Robbie got on her knees and prayed every night, and she was a great lover of writing daily gratitude lists. She found good in people, even those she was mad at. And though she could be stubborn, she didn't have a mean bone in her body, Richard says. She couldn't kill a spider. The last years of her life, as her disease took its toll upon her, were difficult for both Robbie and Richard. Yet Richard's devotion to her did not falter, and he was with her when she died, taken from this life far too soon. She had an innate grace and good manners, Coyote says. Part of it coming from her Southern upbringing, and part of it just who she naturally was. She loved to laugh, and she loved life. There was no new experience that didn't thrill her, Coyote says. She had a sensitivity to beauty, traveling to beautiful places and bringing beauty into her home with a garden full of flowers. Robbie is one whose life we will not see again on this earth. She led a life with so many sorrows and yet so much beauty and joy. May we take a lesson from Robbie. The transformation and change are always possible. That our sorrows and challenges season us. They make us, if we will let them, more sensitive, kind, compassionate, and accepting. May her life and example remind us that love is possible and that our lives too may be a blessing. Those who knew Robbie knew of her capacity to love fiercely, to laugh long and well, to bring beauty into the world, to make a life rise from seeming ashes. May all who knew Robbie carry her memory and the lessons of her living forward and onward into this world. Amen. And may it be so. Richard has prepared a slideshow of Robbie's life and loves. Let us take some moments in silent tribute to Robbie. As you sit in silence, let memories rise for you. Find an image, perhaps one just in the slideshow that you saw, or perhaps as you sit, an old memory, a whole story will flash before you. Let this be the image that you carry with you of Robbie into your life as you go forward. Let us take some moments in silence. Take some moments in silence, a silent meditation. Amen. I now invite you, I will actually get you up in a moment. Invite family, friends to come forward, share a memory, speak of your love, your remembrances of Robbie.
Something we still like to tell people about Robbie today is...
Who are you?
Huh?
Who are you?
I'm Lorraine Daly, her sister-in-law, I guess. And anyway, when Richard and Robbie first moved up here from Texas, what were those sweet rolls? Cinnabon. Robbie could put away 2 Cinnabons in one sitting with extra frosting and still want more, and leave people in awe of how much she could eat of those. I don't know if she continued her love for them, but when they were first up here, that's what she always wanted was Cinnabon, and not just one, the extra large one, 2 with extra frosting. And I still tell people.
My name is Dawn. I'm a friend of Robbie's, and I just so clearly remember her in the garden and the pictures of the garden. I just remember her smiling and being so elated with new purchases, new ideas, and such passion. And also just coming to the house for a visit, there was such acceptance and warmth. I was amazed, she and Richard had me for family gatherings for Thanksgiving a few times, and her hospitality and love, for not knowing me all that well, was just so sweet and genuine. And also, one story I recall is I house sat, took care of the cats at one point, and there were so many cats with so many names and had so many things to know about them. And I tried to pay attention and get it all down. And somehow, sometime, one of the cats got out of the house, unknown to me. Because you would see them sleeping, and I just thought they were all there. And she called a couple of times, and I assured her that they were all doing fine. So even when she came home and realized the cat was missing, and she was freaking out and was so stressed, and I felt like my life was over. I just was like, oh, this is the worst. And I felt so bad. And we were out in the park and searching for the cat and calling, and even then, Robbie just said, it's okay, Dawn. I knew this was her favorite cat. And she just still, reassured me. And anyway, the cat was found. And so flowers and animals and art and sharing her true feelings, even though I did, know her really, maybe as well and as deeply as you others. I too leave with good things learned. And thank you, Richard, for sharing putting together such a beautiful collection of who and what Robbie was. So, thank you.
That was really nice.
My name's Mercedes, and I spent a lot of time with Robbie, quite a bit of time. We met in '94, and at work, I worked with the city, and she had just gotten her diagnosis at that time. So this was all new to her, and we spent a lot of time talking about it, and then we learned that we liked a lot of the same things. We liked gardening, we liked art, and we liked cats, and so what one of us didn't think up to do, the other one would take over and think up for us. So we just went back and forth all the time. We spent a lot of time together. It was just incredible. We were like sisters for a long, long time, and it was a big loss when she passed. But I feel like she was a big part of my life, and she taught me a lot of different things, and she was just an amazing person.
I'm Chris. Robbie's brother. I never thought of Robbie as my sister-in-law. I always thought of her as my sister. Not only was she my sister, but she was the godmother for my children, Johnny, Chloe, and Doug. You know, when I think back over the years, and how beautiful she was on the day Richard and Robbie got married at the gorge, and what a joyous day it was. And then here we are at the end. It's very difficult. But I appreciate so much that she did for not only me, but my entire family. When my brother was in Houston, working with his own addiction issues, I met Robbie. I had gone down to visit, and that was the first time that I met Robbie. I had this little rundown apartment that they lived in, and I could see how happy my brother was for the first time in forever. Since I was a little kid, my brother was happy. And I really hoped that they would remain together. And I'm so glad for you, Richard, that you did. That you got to share all those years to live together. And I also love the fact that Robbie would open up her home and take the kids for the weekend so that my wife and I could be left alone. On more than one occasion, on many occasions. And we would even get a couple of weeks in the summertime when they would take them camping, and my wife and I would be, yay, no kids for 2 whole weeks. You know, we were just ecstatic. And, you know, when you saw some of those pictures of them camping together. You know, I don't know how to say it, but a piece of me is missing. A piece of my family is missing. But at the same time, she's always going to be there because of the influence she's had on my children that I can see. You know, obviously, kids don't always listen to their parents, but they loved Robbie, and they listened to her real good. And when I couldn't get them to do something, sometimes I'd say, you're going to have to answer to Robbie. I love you, Richard. I'm sorry. But she's in a better place. Thank you. That's beautiful.
My name is Jeremy. I don't know how to describe my relationship as far as how I know Robbie, but I'll say that when Richard and Robbie first moved to Portland, Tyler and I were living together. And so I first got to know Robbie and Richard. And then at some point, Robbie came to work for me. And I cannot remember the exact year, but what I do remember is that she was a fabulous employee. And she was a wonderful woman on so many levels. And so, but the capacity that I got to know her sort of every day was as her boss, and it was a good fit for her. It was a very good fit for her, and she really liked it. I think she was hired in sort of a temporary capacity and had to go through this hiring process to get permanent status. And I remember that time that she was filling out the paperwork was the same time when she had got the diagnosis. And I so clearly remember sort of losing my patience, like, what's up, Robbie? Why haven't you done this yet? And then she told me. And then I just felt so sort of stunned by it all. But I'm not sure if my memories are all accurate, because I also have this memory of that house in Northeast Portland, the one that you guys bought, wherever that was. That was part of, I think, Robbie's sort of transition from Texas to Portland. Like, whoa, what's this all about? And I was sitting with her in your home shortly after her diagnosis, and we were alone. And I remember her saying, I don't know if I'm going to be here next year. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. But I know one thing for sure, I'm going to have the most beautiful garden ever this spring. And she did, and I was so, I don't know those were exact words, but it was that kind of spirit that Robbie had. And that this huge thing that happened at the time that I can remember so clearly was heartbreaking, and how you both moved forward with such grace. And that I feel like as a huge sort of example for so many people that's before us. And as time went on and Robbie left, I didn't have as much, and Tyler moved to Montana and people were scattered about. I didn't have as much contact with her, but I remember her, as this really bright, happy, accepting, innocent, just such a sort of core innocence about her that, and just sort of grace and humbleness that was present, that made everyone that she worked with, I think, really appreciate and like her. And it was a huge sorrow to see her leave, from the perspective of someone that was so fabulous to work with, and also because I knew the greater reason was that she was leaving. But I loved watching this slideshow. It was a wonderful reminder of her life, and I appreciate that, and everybody's presence, and just what a beautiful, beautiful family in all these many years that I've known you all.
I'm Sue. I don't know my capacity as sister-in-law, whatever, but, or whatever. What I see tonight, and is in my mind, and I can't think of Robbie in any other way of her laughing And I'm sitting there and watching all this slideshow, and all I can do is hear her laughter. And and there was pictures of us, of her camping. And I remember we went camping, and we were going to have a baseball game. It was just a bunch of us, girls and the kids. And I was very competitive, and I was going to hit the ball really far. It was, made out of who knows what, something that we found in the woods, and made bats and balls and stuff. And Robbie gets up there. I wish I could do it, but I'm too much of a prude. She gets the bat, and she's wiggling her butt, and she's laughing, and she's so funny. And she wouldn't be competitive at all, and it was always funny, And that's what I think of tonight. I just can't see anything else but her laughing. And I look at these pictures, and I see her smiling and her laugh, and that's just fills me tonight. And that's great.
Yeah,
So
it is.
thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you all for being here. I'm Toyota. I'm the mother-in-law. And that's said with a lot of love, actually. I've been living with Robbie and Richard now for, on and off for several years. On and off, on and off, on and off. And Robbie and I are both very, very strong women. And you put two strong women in the same kitchen, and I see the women are nodding. The men are looking really scared. So we shared a kitchen, and we both did well. Seb sort of. Seb was her first and most loved baby, and her protector. Anyway, I remember planting the first daffodils in front of their first house with Robbie, and seeing the first daffodils come up. We had a notorious fight at one time where Richard and Sue had to, I think they were afraid we were going to come to blows, and they pulled us apart, But one of the things that happened is Robbie and I understood how those kinds of incidents deepened our intimacy. We trusted each other more because we could stand up to one another. We didn't have somebody who cowered and somebody who won. Nobody ever won when we argued. But she was naturally, innately, inside out, one of the gentlest women I've ever met. She just didn't get meanness, didn't understand it, couldn't follow it, didn't know what was happening when it was happening. And in that capacity, for somebody who's come out of rough background, for her to have so much innocence and so much innate gentleness, just sweetness, just boggled my mind. So she taught me a lot about, stubborn, my God, the only thing that matched her sweetness was her stubbornness. I don't quite know how those two go together, but they did well in her. And her stubbornness is part of what kept her going for so long. She's one of the longest living survivors in the female survivors in the United States. And she did it with grace, dignity, acceptance. She never lost her spiritual contact. She never lost her hope for a better life for everybody around her. She gave to those grandkids, she gave to me, she gave at work, she gave to everybody she touched. And we didn't bring any of her art today, but if you haven't seen any of her artwork, she was just a terrific artist. And she says she didn't have children, but somehow her genes got into her granddaughter, because now her granddaughter is growing up into being a tremendous artist. And or not her granddaughter, but my granddaughter, her niece. So it was a real privilege to share with them, to live with them, to fight with them, to cry with them, to laugh with them. The one thing I won't miss is the vampire movies. She really liked vampire movies. But the flowers, you know. What, she was as beautiful as every flower she ever planted, inside and out. And she was a teacher, and she's now a spirit guide for all of us. Thank you.
I'm Norm, and I met Robbie and Richard at a dog park. And I remember sitting there on the picnic bench like a lot of people at dog parks do. And Richard was out with the dogs, and I sat and I pretty much listened to Robbie. And I could see that she was a teacher. She understood humility and humanity at its best. And it was so interesting to just listen to her, how she interpreted things. And I appreciated everything. She was a wonderful person. And I'm going to miss the fact that she won't be there to teach me anything anymore about humility. But with that, I'd like to talk to you about my best Christmas present. Well, it wasn't a Christmas present, but we had a Christmas party. One year, Richard and Robbie didn't have a lot of plans for Christmas, and we didn't either. So we said, well, why don't you come over and have dinner with us? So they did, and oh, by the way, bring the dogs. They had 4 dogs, 4 border collies. We had 4 border collies. And the next door neighbors came. They brought 2 more. We had 10 dogs for Christmas. We exchanged presents, and Richard and Robbie brought most of them. But all the dogs got to open presents. And I don't know where you found most of those, because they've been looking for years, and we had the best presents ever. Brother, we'll miss you very much. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tricia, only living sister. Robbie was my last sister to leave me, my 3rd sister to leave me. I've lost everybody now, but God, I loved her. We fought, but that didn't mean anything, like he said. I was first, the mean one, and then was Cindy. She was the glue that held us all together. Robbie was the baby. It was me, Cindy, and Robbie. Always me, Cindy, and Robbie. Tricia, Cindy, and Robbie, right? When Cindy left us, she was the glue that held the whole family together. And it seemed like we all went off our own ways, but still loved her. Still loved her a lot. I call her all the time. She didn't answer the phone. She didn't call you back. Robbie never called anybody back. Did she call you back? She didn't call us back. She never did. So you'd have to keep trying till you got it. So. But I've been real lonely these last couple of months because she's my life. But it was 6. The 7th one that they mentioned, he was only alive for 24 hours, but 6 of us, and I'm going to miss her because she's the last one I had to talk to. When we did finally talk about once a month, we'd talk for an hour or 2, and then we'd have to say, now my ears are hurting, you know, we'd have to finally let go, but and I didn't know her like y'all knew her, and I really appreciate all these stories y'all are saying because it sounds like her, and I miss her, and I love you. I love you too, Richard. Thank you for giving my sister such a wonderful life. Had a wonderful life with you, and thank you all for coming.
My name's Christy. I live next door. And Robbie and Richard have been our friends and part of our lives for the last 14 years. I was pregnant with Caleb when we moved to Justin. And she was the nicest one to me. She was always my friend. And we complained to each other about our aches and pains. She was a great mother to my dog. One of that yellow lab was my dog, Lucy. She was the best. And even when we had to put Lucy down, she was there for me. That was really hard. I remember so much how she loved the holidays, and before they had a neighbor, the foster home on the right side of where they lived. It was a little field, and Richard and Dawn and Robbie and I would make an Easter egg hunt for the kids. It would be the nephews and my 2 kids, and they just were so cute in the neighborhood. Brian and Nicole came too, and it was just fun. Richard, you were blessed with a very wonderful woman. Even to the very end, she was always so peaceful and humble and willing to help out. She was a dear woman. And I have one of her art pieces. She painted a yellow lab, and she was trying to make it Lucy, but it came a little dark, so it kind of looks like Macy was our other new lab. And that's okay, it ends with AC, right? So I've always got something to remember by. And I can always look over the fence and see the garden. Thank you, Richard.
Hey, I don't know if anybody really remembers me. I'm Nicole. I used to live across the street from Robbie and Richard, and it's been tough. You know, I missed you guys a lot. I would stay between my house and your house during the summer with Amy, and we'd go out on jet skis and we'd be out on the lake all day. And Robbie and Amy would always share one, and Richard and I would be on one. And Robbie and Amy would just kind of, they were the calm, cool ones. And then Richard and I would, go crazy and cut cookies in little circles and she was always worried, that we'd get hurt. And it was just funny because she's just a wonderful person, and she was always there for you and a good listener, and she could give awesome advice. And you guys were a big part of my life growing up, and past couple months have been hard. For the first couple months, it was the hardest, and I could always feel her presence. She was looking after me. And I have a little dog, and when I say dogs can see spirits and ghosts and all those, and I always knew that she was there because my dog would go nuts, because he's trying to protect you, but he didn't have anything to worry about because Robbie would never fly. But growing up was a lot of fun. I had my parents and you guys and all the other neighborhood families, and I loved Robbie a lot. And you two, you guys were always kind of like the other family, like the other parents or grandparents or, sisters and brothers, and that's how I always thought of you guys. And thank you a lot. You helped me become, along with my parents and everyone else, you guys helped me become the person I am today. And I know that Robbie's here looking out for me and everybody else, and I miss her. But she was a wonderful person, and she'll always have a place in my heart for you too. But I can feel her presence a lot. Oh, I was tiny then.
Well, I hope everybody knows who I am. I'm Richard. Come here, sit down. Sit down. Hey. Thank you everyone for coming. It's really nice to see all of you. And I didn't know if I'd be able to get up here and talk, because I've been a blower and idiot for months now. But and the one thing Nicole didn't mention was she's the one who started with the Aunt Robbie stuff, and it became very infectious with most of the kids in the neighborhood. And one thing Dana didn't mention was that when we met at that dance, yes, I'm a goofball, everybody knows that probably. But 2 weeks later, we moved in together. We both know that it was for real, right from the beginning. And it never wavered. She's a beautiful one, even through her trials. And, people say that I gave her a good life, but mine was enriched beyond measure. And I would trade it even for a minute. She was a good woman. And by the way, all you kids, be very grateful. I have pictures of you naked, every one of you. Yes, she was very courageous. And I would tell her that often, that I admired that in her more than anything. The way she faced her disease and overcame it was a tremendous tribute to who she was, and I don't know, to me it was, she could get past it. I don't know that if I had what she had, that I would have been able to overcome it like she did. And yes, she was stubborn, very stubborn. But I'm grateful for that too, because it kept her alive. You know, I truly believe that her stubbornness is why she lived as long as she did. So I'm grateful for that stubbornness, even though it drove me nuts. Again, thank everyone for coming. It's really nice to see all of you here. And know that Robbie did love each and every one of you. And we'll still continue to love you. Thanks.
Please join me in prayer. Gracious, loving God, may we hold the tender memory of Robbie's life close and find comfort there. May we open our hearts to her memory and to one another. And may each live knowing greater depth and richness of life for having known Robbie. May we offer to others the kind of acceptance she offered, the kind of kindness she gave, the kind of humility she lived. May we grow in kindness, forgiveness, gratitude. May we appreciate beauty when we find it or it finds us. And may we remember that your holy presence is there, and that Robbie is tenderly with you. Remember well. May your memories help you live as fully as you can. Amen. And may it be so. Tioga now wishes to offer a reading of the 139th Psalm, a favorite of Robbie's. You know, this song Robbie heard just maybe for the first time 2 or 3 months ago, and she very much liked it, and she talked about it often. So I thought it appropriate to share it here. And I'm not going to read it all. I'm taking excerpts out from it. It's long. So here we go. Oh God, you have looked deep into my heart. You know all about me. You know when I am resting and when I am working. And from heaven you discover all my thoughts. You notice everything I do and everywhere I go. Before I even speak words, you know what I will say in your powerful arm. With your powerful arm, you protect me from every side. I can't comprehend all of this. Such wonderful a knowledge is far beyond me. Where can I go to escape your spirit? Or from your sight? If I were to climb to the highest heavens, you would be there. If I were to dig to the world of the dead, you would also be there. Suppose I had wings like the dawning day and flew across the ocean. Even there, your powerful arm would guide and protect me. Or suppose I said, I'll hide in the dark when night comes to cover me over. But you see in the dark, because daylight and dark are all the same to you, all one light. You are the one who put me together inside my mother's body, and I praise you because of the wonderful ways, the complex ways, the marvelous ways you created me. Nothing about me is hidden from you. I am secretly woven together from the earth below, but with your own eyes you saw my body formed
And even before I was born, you had written in your book all I would be. Your thoughts, you are far beyond my understanding, much more than I can ever imagine. Look deep into my heart, O God, and know everything that I am. Take away all things that make you sad, and lead me clearly, cleanly into your bright light. I'd just like to share that Robbie expanded her spiritual things to include everyone. She went to a sweat lodge. She practiced meditation. She prayed on her knees. There was no path to the Creator or to the spiritual light that Robbie was not willing to explore, to take, and to embrace. So her arms circled all of us here. Thank you.
So before I offer final words of benediction, I want to invite everyone to a reception in the dome room behind us. Lots of food and drink, and time to share even more stories. And also, just to let you know, if you need a restroom, the easiest way to go is out this hall here and into the new wing, and halfway down the new wing are bathrooms. So, I leave you with these final words from A. Powell Davies. When sorrow comes, let us accept it simply as a part of life. Let the heart be open to pain. Let it be stretched by it. All the evidence we have says that this is the better way. An open heart never grows bitter, or if it does, it cannot remain so. In the desolate hour, there is an outcry, a clenching of the hands upon emptiness, a burning pain of bereavement, a weary ache of loss. But anguish, like ecstasy, is not forever. There comes too a gentleness, a returning quietness, a restoring stillness. This too is a door to life. Here also is a deepening of meaning, and it can lead to dedication, a going forward to the triumph of the soul, the conquering of the wilderness, and in the process will come a deepening inward knowledge that in the final reckoning, all is well. Robbie would want it that way. Go with God, Robbie.